forward. And he is going to provide us not with just the details of the Guatemala trip, but how God is working, not just in his life, but around the world. And how we participate in that as a congregation. And how not just we participate in it, the college that he goes to participates in it. See, around the world, people not only need to be reached with the gospel of Jesus Christ, but somebody has to be there to carry that message. We support many missionaries. We support many ministries out within, outside of the community or outside of our church walls. And it's because we believe in the mission and the word and the ministry of Jesus Christ. So we're going to hear today from David. And we're going to begin to have a little better understanding of the world around us, because some of these places, as we just talked about earlier, are not as free as we are to do the things that we do. The opportunities that we have, the liberties that we do have. And David's also, I believe, going to be sharing about some things that happened after he left the Guatemala trip. About the volcano and whatnot. But I just want you to listen to this, not just with the understanding of what David did, but experience this as how God worked through this whole mission that David was on. Let's pray for David right now. Father God, we come before you right now, and we just lift David up to you, Father. We ask for your anointing upon him, that his words, Father, are your words. And that, Father, you touch our hearts and our ears, Father, that when David speaks, we hear what you want us to hear through this, Father. Not just a physical trip, Father, but how you have moved and how you are trying to show us and lead us where you want us to be in our lives. We thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for David, this God-fearing man who is following you. So, Father, right now, I just ask your blessing upon him. I ask that you give him a sense of peace as he brings this message to us, Father. And I pray, Father, for your strength through this time. So in Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, at the beginning of May, I had the opportunity to go with Waynesburg University for 2 weeks down to Guatemala. For those of you who don't know, it's a country, pretty small, in the middle of Central America. It is definitely a poor country. It's not as poor as, overall, it's not as poor as some countries like the Dominican. On the level of like poorer countries, it is a little higher up. But yet again, it still has areas that are where people have no food. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. Children who are very malnourished, don't have the proper health attention that they need. And so I will be talking about our trip down there, the different areas where we were, and why it is so important to help people in those areas. So these pictures are of Patsum, which is the town where we're staying. The town it's not that big, but it's kind of hard to say how big it is. It's probably, it's smaller than Greenville, but it's a decent size. It's a pretty poor area, but it's also pretty safe. We were told that it's safe to walk around even at night in the city. Just don't talk to people at night. They're very friendly in these countries. If you see someone in the streets, they'll say good morning to you, good afternoon, good evening. Everyone's very friendly with you. Even the tall white people who are a little out of place, they're very friendly and open, and they want to get to know you. They definitely stare a lot, but that's just it's more out of just wondering why you're there, and not like I want you to leave. That's just an overview from a hill, looking down onto the town. At the bottom bottom left, that is a hospital, which I'll be telling you more about later. And on the bottom right, that the metal building with the curved roof. That is part of the compound, the center where we stayed. This was probably one of the hardest parts of the trip. It is the dump in town. It's a little bit out of town, but it's the place where everyone takes their garbage from that they use at their house, and they just leave it there. If you look looking down that hill, is there's just trash piled up. I'm a little scared of height, so I didn't get too close to look. But I mean, even like looking on the edge, like there's just trash piled up. Dogs are everywhere, just trying to survive eating the trash that people bring. We even saw some people scrounging through the trash to find metal or anything that they could recycle, just to try to get a little money from it. I'm not sure if I saw it, but I think some other people saw people eating food that they found in the dump. To the left of the dump, they have someone's house is right there. It's a very beat up home. It's you can tell someone who is very poor lives there. I mean, because whenever you step out of the truck, flies and insects just surround you. It's the stench, the smell of from all the trash is just so overwhelming as you just look and see all the trash around you as you're just stepping in trash. Another thing, they do have toilets. The thing is, you cannot flush toilet paper. So part of the dump here is also just used wasted toilet paper and just, yeah. On the right is the big church that we went to. In Guatemala and a lot of Hispanic countries, Roman Catholicism is the primary religion. We did get to go to 2 services down there since we were there for 2 weeks. We took the kids there, and it was definitely an experience just because, well, first of all, it's all in Spanish, so you don't understand what they're saying. And second, it's Roman Catholicism, so that's definitely a lot different than what we are used to here. And on the left is just a picture of like a fountain park area within the town. That is a picture I took inside the church one morning. It's just packed with people. There are like rows of seats the whole way up, and on the sides they have like folding chairs that people are just sitting in because there's no room to sit. And actually, this church is so long that there are TV screens going up the church so that you can actually see what's going on, just because of how huge the building is. The center that we stayed at, it's a nutritional center for children. Later I will talk about the reasons why the children are there. But that is like that building, children have their rooms there. There's the kitchen and eating area for the kids. The nursery's in there for the babies. And there's like a play area that they can play in. And that's like just a panorama of the center. Like on the right side is more where the madres live. And then if you go down, like there, the building I pointed out is next to that. And there's like the garage for the center bus. And then behind that is another building where the little children have school until they're old enough to go to the other school. And they also have like a playing area where we played soccer with them in the evenings, and we played like volleyball with them. As I mentioned, the Madres, so the center is run by Franciscan nuns, who I think technically they're all like sisters, hermanas, but we call them all like Madre, like out of more respect to them, because there's only like one Madre, the head of all the sisters, and that's the only picture that I have of the Madre, so I thought I would include that. We took a day trip to Mayan ruins, which I'll talk about later. And one of the kids went with us, and he took my camera, and that was like the only picture of not moving things or like seats or whatever. So we had two work projects when we were down there. The first one was, which we thought was going to be our main one to work on, was a new roof over the dorm where some of the children had been staying, but weren't at that time because it would leak down when it rained. It would like, get their things wet. But then we had another project that we actually had to do more of because it was more important to get it done sooner. But so that's a view of the roof. We had scaffolding that we used to. What we did was we leveled off the roof. I think they were going to build it up. So the roof was flat, and they were going to put like it's kind of like a metal roof. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but then like it's flat, and they can use it. They can grow like vegetation up there, and they can do laundry and different things up there. Unfortunately, we did not get to see this project finished because of the other one. And also one thing that's different than here is they do not have many power tools. So when we had to like knock through concrete here and with the other project, it was mostly just done with a hammer and a chisel, just pounding through for hours, just trying to break through the concrete. In the back of the picture, we have to be careful not to go through the wall though, because on the other side of that wall is someone's like house and properties like down below that, and we didn't want to like be knocking like concrete and dust down onto their living area. So just a couple more pictures from the roof. And the second project we did was in the dorm area with the kitchen and the nursery. We had to put new sewage and water lines in because the one, like it was leaking, causing a mess underneath, and then it was the infrastructure, like with the one post, it was sinking down because like it wasn't even connected on the floor to because of the like the water and the sewage was just like washing away that area. So this was very draining. It took a lot of time to complete this. It took longer than we were expecting, but we did get to see this mostly finished. So first we had to bust through the concrete, and then after that we used shovels and just scoop out like all the dirt, and we put it like on piles there, as you see at the bottom of the second picture. Just put it on huge piles. Then we mixed dirt and sand to make concrete later on to pour down. So we did a dig, and then we had to like make sure it was leveled out. So then like it flowed down through. On the left, you see like that's the main area. The orange door in the back goes to some of the kids' rooms. One of the reasons we had to hurry more with this was because we had to shut the water off in their bathroom for a few days while we were working, because otherwise their sewage and their water would just be like flowing through and making a mess where we are trying to build up. There you can kind of see it's a little more finished, leveled off. Then the only thing that's left to do after we left was just lay the tile. They have construction workers that they hire. The one that we worked with on this project, his name is Don Silverio. He gets paid, I think, I heard $10 a day, which is like $1.50 in American money. The next thing we're going to talk about is the hospital. They have a hospital connected to their center that is run by some of the madres, and like some of the madres are doctors. They have two parts to the hospital. The one part is more surgical, and then the other part is like an emergency room, but it's more like a clinic. So it's only open from 8 to 8 every day, so no matter how serious it is, they can't stay there overnight. If it's really bad, they send them to Guatemala City, but that's like 4 hours away, or like 2 to 4 hours away, depending on traffic. So it's really hard to do that. So there's many things I saw in the clinic side of it. I saw wounds. I saw something probably about this big. That was just missing from someone's head, probably about 1 inch deep. When he was asked what happened to him, he said that something fell on his head. We're not sure if that's actually true, because they say that they do have a lot of machete injuries at the hospital that they see. And he was there probably for an hour max. They took vitals. I got to help with that. And then they cleaned it, and they packed his wound, but they're comparing what we would do in the United States to there's such a high risk of infection. They don't use antibiotics. I'd be surprised if he did not get an infection and had to go back to the clinic later on. I did not see him again, but I think someone else might have later on. Then in the surgery part of it, they have the post-op and pre-op areas. And when we were there, there's an organization called Smile Network International, which does they do cleft palate and cleft lip surgeries. Which one question I had for them was, why is it such a problem in those countries, the underdeveloped countries? Why do we see more of it there? And the answer is they actually see the same amount in the United States as there, but we, because of early detection and the technology that we have here, by the time that they're 1 month old, they're already having the surgery to repair it. Whereas these kids are 2, 3. I think the oldest one you saw was 7 or 8. I don't know, maybe 9 years old. I'm gonna have to go in and have the surgery. There's one thing that they also don't do is they don't use gloves very often, which definitely increases the risk of infection to the patient. They reuse things like the different tools they use in surgery. They reuse even the tubes they use for oxygen, to help you breathe. It's all sterilized and reused in ways that we would not. Things that we would throw out after one use, they don't throw out. So we were there for 14 days. For 2 days, we went to, one day we went to Guatemalan, one day we went to Antigua. Antigua is a more touristy area. If anyone is familiar with Guatemala, it's the city that's known for having the arch, and that's the place that you go to get your picture. Guatemalan, it's not as touristy. It's more just vendors selling things. With Ponchel, it's more just like tents instead of like actual stores to go into. One thing that's a little different with the things that they sell is it's all, like 99% of the things they sell is handmade, from shirts, blankets, magnets, anything, like most of the things you'll find are handmade and not made in factories like we would do here. So that's just a picture of the street in Ponchel. You can kind of see on the right, like just like how it's just like an open tent that you just like walk into, and not really like an actual store area. On the right, you'll see a dog. Dogs are very common, just to be roaming the streets. Whether you're just walking downtown or driving, you will see dogs just walking, who don't seem to like actually have an owner. A lot of them are look very sick and starved. Yeah, and like they just aren't fazed by people. They'll just like lay there and like they won't care. You can kind of see like they have transportation's interesting down there. First of all, the roads are terrible. Like potholes here are like nothing. The roads are very windy, bumpy, and people don't really obey or watch out for pedestrians or other vehicles. They just kind of do their own thing. There are some stop signs and like traffic laws, but it's not really followed too well. There are a couple times where like you almost get hit by like a bus or a truck just because you're crossing the street. They're turning, there's no turn signal, they don't care that you're trying to walk, they will just keep going and you better get out of their way or you're gonna be roadkill. And then that is a view from like of a mountain or volcano over a sea. And then this was on the way to Ponchel. It was just a volcano, waterfall that we stopped at to get a group picture and to just stop to enjoy what was there. Antigua, as I said, is a lot more touristy. They have more storefronts, like actual stores that you can walk into. English is spoken a lot more frequently there because it is more touristy. You can see like there's like a van of like, you know, old white people just passing us. We're like, yeah, you're tourists. And they do speak a lot of English just because they kind of have to with all the tourism that happens there. And as we'll talk about later, this area was affected strongly by the volcano that erupted a few weeks ago. This view is overlooking, there's a cross, it's like another famous like picture spot in Antigua, overlooking like the mountain and the town. So more pictures of that. On the left, I believe that's an old school. I'm not sure if it's still in use or not, but like the buildings there are, like the older ones are very, the architecture is definitely very different than ours. If you look like to the left and right of the archway, you'll see little figures. They're like statues of different, I'm not sure if it's like religious things or political, I'm not exactly sure what it is. On the left is just like a view of the town from like a rooftop restaurant. Down the right is like the famous arch with the clock. So a few more things that are different with their culture than ours. Markets are very common. I think it happened 3 days a week in Passoon, where we stayed. I have no gross pictures. This is the only picture I have of the market. Like they just have a lot of fruits and vegetables. They have dead chickens and fish and people just like sitting on the ground, spreading things out, trying to sell them. The smell, especially around the animals, is terrible. They also sell like live rabbits and chickens. That will be dinner later. Spanish, the barrier of language was not as strong as anyone really thought it would be for those who were new to the trip. I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, but it had been 2 years between then and the time that I went on the trip. But the amount that I could remember of Spanish was surprising. But the kids and most of the adults are pretty patient with our broken Spanish in listening and just trying to communicate with us. Words are not needed to communicate, they just use, whether it's just playing with a kid or whatever it may be. You would think that going to another culture within a different language would be difficult to communicate with them, but most of the time it's really not, just because of how they just want to play with you, they just want to be with you, and they don't care necessarily about being able to talk words. On the left, you will see clothes, my clothes. There's an area where we can wash clothes there, but I was having trouble because it kept raining. Like, whether it's just for like 1 hour a day or whatever it was, so my clothes weren't drying. So someone helped me bring like rope and just line it out inside in front of my room so they could dry. On the right, you will see a child. I think her name's Berta. And if you just look at her hands, she's making a tortilla. They use like, they have this gigantic thing of dough, and like they have like this watery stuff. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And they just have like this fryer that they just put it on. And they make 200 tortillas per meal, so that's 600 a day. One of the older kids actually had, her wrist was like swollen from making so many tortillas. Tortillas, they were definitely good, but they were also a lot different from ours. And by the end of the week, I was by the end of the 2 weeks, I was a little over that. On the left, you'll see like a field. Farming, agriculture is something huge in these areas of, well, that's how a lot of people just survive. It's just by growing things, whether it's for themselves or to sell. And on the right, you'll just kind of see like how windy the roads are, because it's a lot like of mountains. You're just like driving through. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I don't know what it is, but we went to mine ruins of the very first capital of Guatemala, even before like the Tikal, which is like the more famous mine ruins. But just some pictures of that. It was a last minute thing, but it was kind of cool to do. One group went to this, another group went to Aldeias, which is like Force of the Poor. The Aldeias are where a lot of the children come from, where their families like don't have food, they don't have practically anything, sometimes like don't even have shoes on their feet. They just, I did not get to go for health reasons. I will hopefully get to go to that part next year. The roads going to them are very bumpy, so I couldn't do that. They did a lot of sacrifices at these ruins, especially like towards the back. Like the madres that went with us weren't allowed to go back there because they're wearing like their black and white, and like they went back there one time and they were told to get out because they're not practicing the same religion. And they could see that like by the way that they dressed. One thing that they do is they like they put things into the fire that their ancestors liked, whether it's like alcohol or coke or type of food or whatever. They just like put it into the fire as a way to like sacrifice to them and to talk to them. Most of those are where they would do sacrifices of young women and children back in the ancient days of the Mayan civilization. And I think on the right they also sometimes play ball there as well as doing sacrifices. So it's a little interesting. That's just another picture, more pictures of that. I talked about that. All right. So the kids, why are they at the center? There's three main reasons. Well, mainly two. Very few are actual orphans. I think there's only one or two that actually don't have any parents. More commonly, if their parents have so many other children, like upwards of like 10, 12, that they can't take care of them. So they just, sometimes, I think they voluntarily send them there. Sometimes the kids are sent there because of malnutrition, just because they don't have food. Like if they, especially a lot of them come from the outdays, so that they have nothing. One thing that we do every year is we fundraise, and you can buy a pair of shoes for the kids. This was probably one of the happiest moments of the trip, to see the smiles on their faces when they got a pair of new shoes, which is something we would so often take for granted, or even to get new socks. They were so excited about it. I think there was about 41 children at the center, so this kind of shows you that. That's Eddie. I bought him a pair of shoes, and so I got a picture of him. And just to see the joy in his face, how happy he was, and just to hear him say thank you was so just surreal. That's some more pictures of Eddie. Eddie was kind of like a group favorite. He's, I think, 8 years old. Yeah. All right. That's Elsa. I think she's 15. I think she's been at the center for 5 years, I believe. There are some babies at the center, but there's not like really one age where children like come in at. Some come in at birth, like right after birth. If like I know a couple of the babies, like their mom like passed away during birth. The dad, they found the dad, but like, he just didn't want them because he couldn't take care of them. So they're sent there to be taken care of. Yeah, sometimes the babies are found just like on the street next to their mother's dead body, or like in a gutter. You call it like gutter babies because oftentimes like some of them are just left in a gutter for like, the police to find them and be taken to the center. That's Elias. I believe he's 17. He actually just moved after we've left. He just moved out into like a halfway house that they have that the government doesn't know about. Because they try to get them to phase out at a certain age. He's going to school, I think, to be an electrician. And that night we have we have white shirts and we bring them for the kids too. And there's one night where we just all signed shirts for each other, just like a memento for the trip. So some of these are from that night. The one on the left, that is, I forget her name, but she is 15, I believe. She's very small. She came from malnutrition. In some of the outdays, they don't speak Spanish, they speak like tribal languages. The one's called Kichikau. And because of that, she has going to school with the little kids, like 5 and 6 year olds, instead of going to the other school in town. It's kind of cool getting to know the children and their different personalities. The one in the gray sweatshirt, she's very sassy. That's Johanna. I believe she's 16 or 17. She is amazing at soccer. She will crush any of you. Wow, yeah, she was, they beat us. We played soccer with them several times. I think the Americans maybe won once out of like 4 times. Keep in mind we were like twice her size, if not more. We do a carnival for the kids. Usually I think it's on the Saturday before that we leave. And we just have different games and like they have prizes, we do a pinata where they can get candy and one of the things is like fishing. Just like throw your rope over and you get a pair of socks. But like they just do that over and over again just because they want like their own pair of socks or it's just so exciting to get something new for themselves. That's Miguel. I believe he is 6 months old. Sometimes like their ages aren't like it's kind of hard to communicate. Like with Eddie, like we were told he's 5. Someone else told us he's 8. Like we just like we're like how old are they? And like we just get different responses. So I believe he's 6 months. He would cry a lot if you put him down in his crib. He was the one that clung to me and someone else, and he would just like reach out to you and want to be picked up, and it would just not be. Yeah, he wouldn't be happy. He would just cry if you weren't out because they do have so many babies that get fed, changed, and taken care of that they just don't get the attention that they need. On the left, that's a picture of the pinata. We just go downtown. We just buy those pinatas. Like the one was of Mickey. I forget what the other 2 were. On the right, you see a picture of a fair ride, and then here as well. Like they had this little carnival that came into town the second weekend, and we took the kids to the one night. We were told that it's not as safe there because like you don't take any bags with you because people coming in like for the town, like translation is bad, but pretty much like carnies, like will like are dangerous and will like, try to rob you. So we reached like a sign like 2 children that like had to hang with us, and it was at night, so it was a little we were like trying to keep track of them. On Saturday, 2 days before we left because someone had to leave a day before us. With a different flight. They did a thank you celebration, like a program for us. They all wore their shirts that we signed, and they did different like dances and songs for us. And they got us to join in. That was the night before we left. That night is the night before we left in the morning is a very emotional time for all of us and the children, where a lot of crying goes on. We were kind of having like a party where it's more just like everyone crying in different circles. That night was special. The one on the left, Brenda, at points like she would wipe my tears away and say like no more crying. It was kind of amazing how they were looking out for us more than we were them in that moment. And then the morning that we left, they did another song for us, thanking us for coming and helping them. And then a lot of them made handmade cards for us and gave them to us. Unfortunately, they did have school that day. In the past, they've always left on a Sunday, but we left on a Monday. So they had to go to school besides the one. So we had to say goodbye and watch them leave first instead of us leaving and them watching us leave. So it's kind of disappointing, but it might have been a little bit better that way. I'm not sure. Those 2 were still around in the morning. They left closer to. just travel pictures. And then this is just, so the volcano erupted about a few weeks ago, and it's something that many of you probably didn't take too much time to actually to pause, look at the TV, and listen to what's going on, just because it's just another tragedy, and you just kind of like aren't fazed by it. It is something to be aware of because they don't have the resources that we have here. They can't. Like I'm sure when we go back next year, we're still going to see dust places, the ash, just because they don't have the construction tools to be able to effectively clear out the dust and the ash. It was definitely hard when I first heard about this, but we have been in contact with the center, and we know that it's safe there. Patsoon was actually not affected, even though it was about the same distance as Antigua and Guatemala City, which were both affected by ash. Like the airport was shut down in Guatemala City because the military had to come in and just like sweep the ash away. And yeah, something else like with this is things that we would not, something like this would not take us as long to rebuild, or it wouldn't affect us as much, just because we have better structures. These like a lot of the mudslides just like tore through their homes, where since we have the better architecture here, it doesn't affect that as much. So when tragedies like this happen, I'd encourage you to just be more aware of it, because they need so much help, and it's things that we think are not as hard because we can take care of it here a lot easier, but there it's really not. Okay. And I'm just going to read from James chapter 1, verse 27. It says, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and flawless is this, to look after the orphans and widows in their distress." So just keeping that in mind, as we have it so easy here. We oftentimes think that we are rich and they are poor down in countries like Guatemala and the Dominican, but they have the joy of Jesus in a way that most of us do not. They are truly rich and we are not. We are the poor. So I just encourage you to think about your attitude, the way that you have, the way that you live, the things that you have, and just to be good stewards of what God has blessed us with, because He has blessed us in so many ways. But I encourage you to also just think about your attitude, because that's one way that they are so different than us. The joy of Christ is just so eminent with them, and they are so rich while we are poor. Thank you.
So before we close out in prayer, thank you, David, for that. And the biggest thing that we should get out of this, we see the pictures of the trip and the country, and we see the way they live and whatnot. But the biggest part of this, what David, I know what touched David the most, and I think you got to see it, the relationships that are formed. And that's what it's all about, your relationship with Christ, your relationship with other people. So as we're going to pray here, we're going to stand, we're going to have some worship, some music here. But I want you guys to remember that, like David said, just the relationship aspect. So please stay with us.